All right, let's get right into it. We're going to break down the first 24 hours of Operation Epic Fury. And believe me, it was a period of absolute chaos, where the story being told to the public and what was happening on the ground just completely split apart.
So just one day in, the official message from the White House was all about success, about being in complete control. The first strikes, they were framed as this huge, decisive win. Everything's going according to plan.
But, that confident face they were putting on, it was hiding the situation that was getting way more complicated and deteriorating fast. The first cracks in that perfect story were already starting to appear.
And that first crack came, well, almost immediately. It came with the announcement of the very real human cost of this operation.
U.S. Central Command confirmed the news. 3 American service members had been killed in action, and 5 others were seriously wounded. And just like that, the abstract idea of a conflict became very, very real.
The reaction from Democratic leadership, like Senator Adam Schiff, was, as you'd expect, pretty somber. The focus was on the families, offering prayers for the troops and their loved ones.
On the other hand, the administration's UN ambassador, Mike Waltz, he framed the loss as a necessary sacrifice, saying, very simply, freedom is never free.
And then you have the president's direct take on it. He basically said, yeah, we expected this. Casualties were an anticipated cost, for what he was promising would be a great deal for the world. It was just a really blunt, matter-of-fact assessment that kind of set the tone.
Okay, so the human cost is out there. Now let's look at how the administration was actually justifying the why behind all of this, and how that was playing out in public.
Right away, the official story got complicated, and it was because of this really jarring contrast. At the same time the president was calling the fallen soldiers patriots, he was over at Mar-a-Lago hosting a fundraiser where tickets cost $1 million each. The optics were not great. It sparked this huge backlash online, with the hashtag #SendBaron trending all over social media.
When reporters pushed him for the main reason for the strikes, this is what the president gave them: Iran's nuclear program. He said they refused to stop their research, so this was the core justification presented to everybody.
But here's the thing, this wasn't some isolated event. Not at all. Those initial strikes immediately set off this super dangerous chain reaction, and the whole conflict just started spiraling out of control across the entire region. The blowback was instant. Iran hit back, targeting Israel and U.S. bases. Then Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is backed by Iran, started firing missiles into Israel. And of course, Israel responded with its own attacks on Beirut. I mean, in just hours, the whole thing had exploded on multiple fronts.
And the global stakes? They were massive. That number you see, 20%, that's the slice of the entire world's oil supply that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. With all the fighting, tanker traffic just stopped, completely ground to a halt. Oil prices shot through the roof, sending these economic shockwaves all around the globe.
And now we get to maybe the most critical piece of this whole 24-hour mess, a huge, fundamental contradiction that popped up about why the strikes were even launched in the first place.
So the White House's official line was super clear. This was a preemptive strike. They claimed Iran was literally about to attack U.S. forces, that there was an imminent threat that had to be stopped immediately. But then came this. The Pentagon, in a briefing to congressional staff, had their briefers say something that totally contradicted the White House. They said there was no intelligence to support the claim of an imminent threat from Iran. I mean, no way. You've got the White House saying one thing and the Pentagon saying the exact opposite. This just created a massive credibility problem right at the heart of the whole thing.
So with the justification for the attack now in serious doubt and the entire region basically on fire, another really urgent question started coming up. What is the plan? What's the end game here?
Well, at one point, the president made it sound pretty clear. The goal was regime change. He told reporters the #1 objective was, in his words, decapitating the Iranian leadership. But then, in another conversation, he suggested the complete opposite. He said Iran's new leadership wanted to talk and that he was willing to negotiate. So wait, are we getting rid of them or are we talking to them? It was totally confusing.
And if that wasn't confusing enough, a third, completely different strategy came out. The president said he was confident that the Iranian people would rise up and overthrow their own government. The U.S. was just giving them a little push.
So you've got this series of totally contradictory statements, right? Which led journalists to ask a single, really pointed question. With all these conflicting goals out there, was the actual plan for the future of Iran just hope?
And the answer that came from Senator Lindsey Graham, a key ally, was honestly just staggering. When he was asked if there was a real plan to make sure Iran had a stable future, he said no, and that it wasn't the U.S.'s job anyway. It was like he was confirming a shocking lack of any kind of long-term plan.
And it gets even more unbelievable. The president himself admitted to a journalist that, yeah, the U.S. had identified potential new leaders for Iran, but the first strikes were so successful that they had accidentally killed most of them. The very people they might have wanted to work with were gone.
Which really just brings us to this final thought from national security expert Tom Nichols. It perfectly captures the chaos, the contradictions, and just the deep, deep uncertainty of that moment. After just 24 hours, the only thing that was clear was that no one, not the public, not America's allies, and maybe not even the administration itself, had any idea what was going to happen next.